Kelly Greavy.
Here.
And Liz Lasky.
Here.
Karen Mao.
Here.
Karen Peltola.
Yeah.
And Lainey.
Here.
Lainey.
Here.
Roscoe.
Rosga. I know. I was like. And Tim is absent today.
And Bob
Excused. And Bob Brooks is absent today. Excused.
Brooks. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Okay, approved, motion approved. Next thing on the agenda is public hearing. Do we have anything you wanted to say? Okay. Citizen public comment? No. The next thing on the agenda is our city manager, Bill Gamble, and we approached him to come and just kind of tell us what, we seem to be making good strides, but just so that we all fit together, the parks and the Parks Commission and the city and the council. So thanks, Bill.
Thank you for having me. And actually, Jeff and I just met with Brian Dunlap today about the field over there at First Street. And I think it was really helpful. They provided us with a quote of what they were looking to do with the infield, and it was $21,300. So that was really helpful. I think we've had a lot of requests for upgrades in certain parks, and I think we've had the discussion of Minger grants. So I think just kind of getting these projects together and then setting a time to apply if they're over a certain amount. This one's going to be a bigger one. We talked about targeting an April 15th deadline, but I think when we get these, I'd like the Parks Commission to look them over too and say, yeah, well, this is the one we want to apply for this time. And then, so just wanted to, I think the last couple months we've had, the softball fields at First Street, discussion about upgrading the beach equipment. We probably should update the beach master plan to do that first. There's discussion about Riverwalk maintenance funded through the Community Foundation. There was discussion of Sands Parks upgrades, Samaric Park upgrades, Duffy Park, and then we also have the Veterans Park. We applied for the North Riverwalk grant from the state, and that requires a $260,000 match. So we could potentially apply for $90,000 in Minger fund for that, and that's what we're looking to do in October. But I think there's a lot of projects, and it's just a matter of, I think we probably should, look at some of these and see what dates we want to apply for things. And that was kind of my thought when you were talking about how can we all get on the same page. I think we have a lot to do, but we have only so many opportunities to apply for funds, and then getting that scope to the appropriate amount and making sure we have a good application. That's a lot of work, and we need this commission's help on that. So that was one thought. But I just wanted to also mention, I think there's been more graffiti in the parks. One I found in Reed's Park, they had a bunch of graffiti on the basketball court. DPW did a great job of getting that up. It looks really nice. But I guess if anyone sees any graffiti, just report that. I think if we don't have it, it seems to be accelerating. So if anyone sees that, please let us know.
Because we can't do everything at once, is there some kind of priority that maybe city council you would prefer?
I think,
because we want to do everything.
yeah, I get that. And we love the enthusiasm. I think so you have budgeted funds for Morton Park. That's kind of a great one to kind of do because you have the money now. I think that one's priority. We also have that Parks Master Plan, which kind of shows things that went through a public process. So I think let that be the guide a little bit with what you focus on. But
Do you mind if I add something to that?
sure, absolutely.
So, like Bill was saying, right now, some of the big parks capital improvement projects we've got going on, we just completed the Riverwalk and the shoreline protection at First Street. We have some, we're trying to upgrade the entire Memorial Park. We have the disc golf course going on. Geez, I had them all on the top of my head while you were talking. But so we've got some projects that are in process right now, and when you say we want to do everything, we all want to do everything. But I think what's really helpful for the commission is when we've got, a list of these projects that are being requested and moving forward, if we can come to a consensus on what the priority is, and we can do that before February, then I can work with the city manager and the finance director, and we can look for number one, grant opportunities, but even more important than that is the local match part of that. So if we can include that in the council's budget work, that they go through in March and April, then that's the hardest part really, is that match money. Grants they're not easy, they're never a slam dunk, but there's grants out there, and usually the key is the local match part of it. So it's August already, and the end of the year's coming fast before you know it. So those type of recommendations. Bill mentioned the softball fields, but if you take in totality what they're requesting, which would be light upgrades, fence upgrades, field upgrades, and you got 2 fields, so the numbers start to double, right? And you could easily get up to $200,000 to redo those. So there's some very passionate groups that are using those fields, and we've lost that for a while, and now it's back, and it's coming back stronger. So there's always that, well, if you make it better, maybe we'll get more of the community to participate, like we did with the tennis courts at First Street. But how does that balance against another project that everybody wants to do? And, so I think that would be the biggest contribution for you.
When you say match money, does that always come from like the general fund and city council? So we would go to city council to ask for that, or how does that
So it would
work?
typically, it's best if we budget it, but we can put in, if awarded, it would be allocated through match, or through general fund dollars. But typically, like Jeff said, if we can kind of anticipate and we have the costs ahead of time, we can recommend that there's money put aside for the match going into the next budget.
We've had instances in the past where we've had developers offer money, and so we've used that to leverage, some grant funding to do more work. Whenever you apply for a Minger fund, the more in-kind, the more match money you have, especially if it's donated money. We had several donations for the tennis courts, which helped our scoring a lot. A lot of the work that was done by DPW staff. So we got to use the value of that as in kind, and it wasn't all cash out of pocket. But you score higher the less you ask for, and the more you're putting up yourself. So that money can also come from fundraisers or other organizations. So we're always trying to be creative on that. But really, I think the Parks Commission should help prioritize that. And then if staff moves forward with that prioritization, certainly would welcome your help with fundraising and support of those grant applications. But then it's kind of, our responsibility to then try to find money within the budget, either through the capital improvement fund or the oil and gas or something like that we can help support it. A lot of the local matches that we're using in the last 2 years and this year is money that we actually borrowed in a bond, and I think there's almost 20 projects that we bundled up together, and we bonded for the local cost on those projects. And some of it's being repaid by the general fund, some of it's coming out of the oil and gas fund, some of it's out of the water and sewer. So we're always trying to be creative in how we can afford to do the projects.
I think, and Jeff's very passionate about this. He worked on that disc golf grant. I think that started here, right? Because Tom Oley was on the Parks Commission at the time. So maybe just knowing all these things, we talked about the basketball hoops at First Street. Those need some work. I know they're looking at fabricating something so they can hook on a backboard onto the one. But I think maybe having just one person from the commission work with grants with us, and then bring back recommendations for which ones to apply for and when. I think that would help.
Anything else? We agree 100%. That's exactly what, and I think we are, which is good, all on the same page as far as setting priorities, working towards the same goals. And thank you, because it's the communication. We might be working towards the same goal, but doing two different things. And if we're unaware of it, we don't realize we're working together. And I think at the end of the day, we truly are now. So,
Thank you, Liz. And I was thinking when you invited me, I was kind of thinking what would be the most helpful thing, and it just seemed like every time I turn around, there's another project, which is great, but it does kind of, I can tell, you know, being here almost a year with this group, it seems like the focus shifts a lot. But I think just, yeah, having the priorities and then kind of working towards them, and like the Morton Park, you have the money, but then we have these other opportunities coming, and just making sure we get the information we need, like these quotes from to be able to apply for them and to budget for matching funds. It's very important.
And I guess if there was something I could do with the grant application process, you know, I'm willing to help out with that, you know,
Oh, great.
in some way, because I've done that kind of thing in the past, so,
Oh, great. That's,
yeah.
so we might have your person right here.
So that's about all I can, you know,
thank you.
can offer that anyway,
So yeah, it's up to the commission. If they set up a subcommittee and nominate a member to work with Jeff and I think that would be very helpful.
Good. Well, thank you very much for coming
you.
and helping us. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting, the July meeting? Sir?
I did, and some of the motions weren't recorded fully. I guess that I'm concerned, you know, with the motion, the second, the whole thing, you know. It just surprises me. So I thought we were following Robert's Rules of Order. And we've been going through the motions up here, but they're not recorded.
Okay.
So there were action items that you wanted to happen that were not in here?
Well, for example, there was a motion by Tim for the election offers. There was a second by Liz. Liz accepted and the motion was approved. Then
Oh, I see.
Callie was motioned, you know, for vice chair was. And then, you know, there was a second by Bob, and then all in favor, the motion passed. Motion by Tim to nominate Laney as secretary, second by Callie, all in favor, motion passed. There's a lot of that.
Okay, so no sec. So if there's errors in here, just, the nice thing is this one's recorded, right? So we could go by and they could find the second and bring it back to the next meeting and.
I took the liberty,
Oh,
Monday I sent what I'm saying, because it's something I used to help Kathy with, because sometimes she'd miss stuff. You're human. And for a while I quit doing that, and I started doing that again, and I did send it. I don't know if Katie had problem opening it or anything, and I know it was late.
Yeah, it was late.
I mean,
It is, yeah. And I always go back to the video and watch the recording if I miss something, and then that's before I type up my minutes. So I mean, that's just what I'm. That's what I'm.
So I guess I would make a motion that the July 21st minutes be tabled until they're updated.
Okay, what the amendment?
Yeah.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, and then we'll
all
update
in
it.
favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I think maybe, Lady, do you want to just work together a little bit? And
I'd be
I was
happy to.
I was a little late on that agenda too, and poor Katie, I understand it. I was a day late on that, and it'll be a week ahead.
You know, I'm willing to come and sit with you, you know, for the first few times, because between all of us talking at once, and we're not the most organized agenda, I mean, I get all that.
Right.
But I also know it should be,
A record of what happened.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's all. So just contact me.
He's not coming.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both for doing it too, and it's better to have two than one, two sets of eyes, so it's perfect. Any correspondence? Do we get any? Or send any? Okay, committee reports, the next item. The disc golf was going to be Tim. I don't know if anybody else.
I'd be happy to give you an update.
Yeah.
All the pads are poured. We went out with Tom and mocked up where the baskets are gonna be. And then, he and Brandon worked out where the pilings are gonna go for the, obstacles. So we're hoping to get started installing those next week. The baskets could be in as soon as, in the next few weeks is what we've been told, and that the updates that Tom's been getting from the sales rep hasn't changed. So we're hoping to see those in the next, at least in the next month. Once those come, that's the easiest part of the project. It's, once Tom's got that figured out, we simply have to auger a hole, put cement in, and put the baskets in. So the biggest thing is we need to know the name. And so we had asked at the last meeting if we could form a committee and get opinions and kind of turn that around. But I don't know if we've got a consensus on what the name is yet.
Well, I thought, weren't we supposed to like let you know what we thought?
Weren't we supposed to bring ideas? Correct?
That's what I'm asking,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, I have an idea. Would you like to hear it?
Sure.
Okay. So Century boats are big in the area. I was trying to figure out something that would touch the soul of somebody coming back to the area or knows a little bit about the area. So I kind of had a Century boat type theme. But what I thought was Century had the thoroughbred boats, and in the 50s, 60s when they were operating out in this town, from my understanding.
Yes.
And I thought because the Armory has a disc golf course, Parks has disc golf courses, that it would be called a collective instead of maybe just, you know, golf course here, golf course there, that you would say, here's what my idea was, Century Thoroughbred Disc Collective Manistee, or Manistee Parks. But I understood that in the Armory is not a Manistee Park, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's why I would call it a collective and take the parks off of Manistee. But you could name them according to ability. Coronado, or some of the name, Coronado, Resorter. I love the name CTOT for maybe a beginner's course. That way you can add model names to the collective and still, you know, have the general umbrella name is what I was thinking. I also asked a young man that uses the courses, he's 33, and he thought past charter fishing captains in their boats would be a good name also, that have contributed to the betterment of the community, which I understand has been a plethora of them from the past that maybe are no longer with us. But as a nod to the fishermen, also that would be something he would like to see.
Any idea?
Okay. That was just what.
Didn't Tom want the name, what was it, Family Disc Golf or something?
He texted me this morning to make sure I reminded you what he wanted. But his suggestion was, he is suggesting that it's called First Street Beach Family Disc Course.
So you're not looking for a general name for all the courses, it would only be a name for each course, am I correct? Is the way
Yeah, a name for that
they're moving
particular
towards-
course.
I like that, but it seems long.
Yeah,
Put on a round sign, I'm just trying to think the graphics of that might get, I mean, you could probably do First as, you know,
Could you do Douglas instead of First Street Beach?
You could do First Street Family. Don't use the word beach.
it's kind of on Cherry Road. I mean, I know it's First Street Beach, but if you get rid of the beach, we got First Street and its address would be
That's
Cherry
true,
Road.
yeah.
Was it Cherry Street or
Or
Cherry?
Cherry, either one, probably it's Cherry Street now.
it's, yeah, until it gets to 12th
It used to be
Street.
Cherry Road,
Cherry
but it's
Street,
Cherry Street
right.
now.
It's Cherry Road after 12th Street.
Okay.
So you think it could be Cherry Street?
No, I'm not suggesting
No, okay.
Cherry Street, I don't know, First Street would be confusing if it's not right on First Street, but,
It just seems long for marketing.
yeah.
Not that it's not,
I think it sounds nice, but was that all gonna be on one sign?
Yeah, I tried to show you the image of that last month. It would be, the signs are circular, so it would be First Street Beach, Family Disc Golf, or Family Disc Course would be kind of on the bottom.
And I understand you wanted family disc, so people would know it's for a family.
I think that's Tom's point.
Yeah.
And you wanted Manistee to be in the name, if I remember right, Jeff? Is that right?
The only question I had was whether to call it its own park, but I don't really have
No? Okay.
any strong opinions either way. I love the idea of tying the Century, but if we don't use it here, I think that's something we could go to their club and see if the Century Boat Club would support something. And then I really like those different
I know.
models to use for something. Like, don't put that away, because
Oh, it's right there. I was all
there's got to be a
excited.
really neat application for that.
I think so too, in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or
Something
form.
right on the water almost more, something associated, I love that too, I thought, I never
And-
thought of that.
I think don't they come up during hops and props?
Yes, I do.
From all over the country.
That's where I kind of like.
You may want to grab a hop and then go down and talk to the props and see if they would be interested
I'm
in
not
something like
serving.
that. That's really neat.
I just thought of a collective because not all of them are in our parks,
Sure.
but they are inside the city, you know,
So Jeff,
proper.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If you name that First Street Beach Family Disc Golf Course,
Disc course.
Disc Course, what would then you call the one over at Red Schmerich Park? Would that be Red Schmerich Park Family Disc Course? Because I know you guys kind of want to keep the flow of names if there were multiple courses, just distinguishing them by location. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Or?
It could be. I mean, we haven't done any formal names to that, to the Red Samaric Park course at all.
Well, and then there's the thought of a more professional course off 55.
Right.
Potentially.
And that would tie in with this Century Boat thing.
I thought naming them according to ability, like they had a CTOT boat, which I thought was really cool. So if that was one of your starter courses, you know, just by the name CTOT, you would understand that.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Oh, see?
CTOT, like a
Oh,
tater tot.
okay, okay. Thank you for that translation.
Hey, lady, you helped me understand it by asking, so thank
You
you.
might have to be
thought
parentheses
the names were
like
kinda
beginner
cool.
course or something like that.
I don't know, I was making it one word instead of like.
Well, in my conversations with Tom in the past, he did feel it was very important that this is a family course. It's what we sold it on in the grants, what we sold it on to the community, and the design and layout of it is to be family friendly. I think having First Street Beach ties it to that location. So yeah, if we wanted to say Red Samaric par 5 course or whatever, that could be easily incorporated. And when Tom showed versions of the signs, they could be easily adapted And then if additional courses were made, I think that would flow pretty well too, because it identifies the park they're in and then the type of course it is.
Is the Reg Park also supposed to be for families, or are you particularly thinking First Street is more family friendly and?
I honestly think that's just as family friendly. When that was done, it was done by, I think, scouts that came and said, hey, you know, there was kind of a community group that started it and said, we don't have anything like that. Can we just put it up in this? And I didn't know anything about it. I actually did drawings for the city saying, okay, well, here. I mean, and then they built it. So, but the popularity has really increased. And I was talking with one of the local organizers last week, and he said when they get big groups in and hold a big thing, first of all, they do it in the evenings and shine lights in the trees and they light up the baskets and have a blast. But he also said they go around it 3 times. So they play 15 holes. So they just play each one 3 times. And so they just enjoy it. So
Well, let's make a decision on the sign because,
They want to make the sign.
we want to make the signs.
we should get the signs ordered and
Yeah.
made, so, and I, one thing I'd say is I kind of want to go along with Tom Olding. He did the bulk of the work. If he wants that word family in there, I would not take that out, so.
He knows what
That's
he
my
wants.
only suggestion, go
Absolutely.
with him on that. Now, First Street, would you do, I mean, there's many ways you could do it. Do you think First Street is better than Douglas Beach or
I
Douglas
think
First?
more people
Identify
First Street Beach
Okay.
than Douglas Park.
So,
It's First Street Beach,
family disc
disc.
Course. Yep.
That isn't that long. There's, if you did it on a circle, there's
It's
three of
it's really broken up into 2.
Three
It's
on the top,
location and what it is.
And then the number of the hole.
Yeah.
And you could do First Street as a number, ST, if that looked,
So if you guys are in agreement, we'll get those ordered next week, the signage, and we'll be able to get the signs up. And we already bought the posts for the signs.
Good.
So we can install those with the pilings. And once the baskets are installed, we're gonna go through and retrim the corridors that a lot of you volunteered to do a couple falls ago, and it'll be ready to play. We also, I don't know how many of you have walked it, but just to the west of the dog park, there's a natural drainage way that comes off the golf course. It goes underneath Harbor Drive, and it naturally flows out to Lake Michigan. And there's been some members in the community that are trying to talk me into bulldozing the dune back there and planting dune grass, and it's where the water comes out. So what we did is repurposed an old skid pier from First Street, repainted it, and stripped the wood off. We reused wood that came from some of the docks at First Street, or at the city marina, and then we're gonna make gangways so that there's just a little pedestrian walkway across that.
Yeah, that'll be
And
nice.
you don't have to go kind of down in the ravine and back up, and so, and then we're gonna just, strap some nautic rope and make a little feature out of it, so. And we did it for the cost of a gallon of paint, so.
We sure we don't want to name it the Tom Oley Disc Golf Course?
tell him that was
You
a
need
close
more
second.
or-
That was a close
Are
second.
we okay?
I think a consensus is just
Yeah.
fine. He'll be happy and pleased with that, and we'll move forward, so.
And how long do those signs take to come?
I would think a few weeks.
Okay,
Yeah.
Will we vote on that? Do we need to vote on that?
I don't think you need to.
I don't think we need to vote on that because
We agree.
it will defer to
Yeah.
Oh, good.
there again to Tom.
Good.
Next thing was Douglas First Street Beach. I think we kind of covered that unless anybody has anything else.
Yeah, so the biggest thing, like I explained last month, was I had, the senior softball group is just a wonderful dynamic group of people. And they're very energetic and they want to do stuff. And so the problem we had was many of them were reaching out. And whenever they would see, one of them would see Mickey or myself, or I guess Tim, and then obviously they approached you. So with the help of Bill, we got them corralled and we met with their committee. So they've got kind of a steering committee. So we met with, 4 of them today? And we've actually been doing a lot of stuff that they had requested. We were able to get to it this week. So we've done some, the yellow piping that's on top of the fence that allows you to lean on it. We're replacing about 350 feet of that. We started repainting some of the dugout benches and some of the bleachers, and Bill and I went through and we're gonna look to rehab the press boxes as opposed to taking them out. They don't get used that much, but Bill made a great point that once you remove them, they're never coming back. So if we can upgrade what's there, we're gonna try to do that in the fall.
They told me they were using these flip charts for scores, so I just thought if they're sitting up there, they could do that, and just need like a karaoke machine with a mic, and maybe someone will take it on themselves to
There is some
announce and-
nostalgia to that. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
It's just that they're at such a visible spot. It's right at the entrance of the beach, and now between the disc golf and this, as long as they look pretty good. But, you know, there again, if you need some help on it, I think we could.
And that was one we thought about, because we could do in kind, and I think if, you know, you have to redo the roof, probably replace some boards, but the structure's really sound underneath the pilings, and, yeah. So I thought that would be kind of, and I think it looks nice when you go down Cherry and you see that. I think when they are well maintained, we get new paint on them and everything, I think it'll look really nice.
They probably have contractors in their group. I mean, reach out to them. They are, like you say, they get together 3 times a week, and they would get together more if you had, they
Yeah, I
love
mean,
getting together.
we bought stone dust and had it sitting down there since the spring, but the guys that requested it didn't get the group together, so we spread that on the north field this week, but now we've got that open dialogue with them, and so I think there's positive things coming.
Excellent, good.
Okay, the next item is the 9th Street boat launch, Karen and Laney. And you saw it, I think Karen visited.
So I went over to see the ADA boat launch or kayak launch at Scotty's Point in Onekama. Beautiful. Of course, it was, I think, $100,000 for it. It came through the, how did we get that? How did they get that? Manistee County Community Foundation, yeah, a lot of that money did. Explore the Shores program is what it's called, and that's how they wrote a grant. It's an easy launch system. It's huge. It's beautiful. They got a sliding bench on it where you kind of put your boat in. It looks like, I didn't have a kayak at the time, but you can use the
Handles?
yes, handles or whatever, barristers to get your body into the canoe or kayak, and you push yourself off. When I was looking at other types of launches in the area, all of the other kayak launches were considered boat launches. So I didn't see any specific to kayaks so much. If somebody knows something, another one other than the one in Onekama, I'd love to know about it because I'd like to go see it. But usually I was being referred to boat launches in any city that's anywhere around here. But while looking for this, I also found that they do a freestanding kiosk for rentals for kayaks, PPE, and paddles. So it's $7,100 is how much the investment is to purchase this. It is actually a standalone down at wherever you're going to do your kayak launching at, which could be a shoo-in for 9th Street. And you actually rent it with a credit card. It's a credit card in, a credit card out. It's generally around $18 to $20 an hour. There's a liability that has to be signed prior to use. There's GPS on the items, so even though it's a self-serve, you can find the items if something should happen, but the credit card would be on file in case something is lost, so there is a charge for anything that would be lost. It has a remote where it could be actually handled from somebody's, a designated person's tablet or their phone. So it would be in case, like say somebody locked their wallet in it or something of that sort. They would be able to remotely unlock it for the person, or you could go to the site and do it. And Ann Arbor has one employed at this point. and I think it was Columbus that had one. So they had some other ideas too. They had long-term, $250 per season for a kayak. Once you put up the kayak rack, you can charge to keep your kayak near the water where you launch it.
That's what Mr. Swedenborn had requested.
Okay, and so I looked at that too. Those are really very. Anyways, that's the information I got. There's outdoor vending solutions and HRI vending that work with both. Those are two of the kayak places that actually had the vending type kiosk. They sound pretty cool. They're flexible. So that's 4 places for $7,100. If you want to purchase 8 places, it's $10,500. I don't know how current these prices are, but I mean, at least we got a ballpark. If you want to add on 4 places because it's real popular, that's an additional $4,000. They said that the rate of investment was returned within the first year. Yeah, you know. So, you
So
know, yes.
Does the city get that money per hour, or do they, I mean, how?
I'm thinking that the city would have to do some kind of app that they accept payments with credit cards, so I think they have to go through that system.
But does the revenue from it come directly to the city or to this company?
Well, if you purchase this
Okay.
for $7,100,
The cities.
yeah, it's a city.
Wow, that's a pretty good,
There's probably a percentage.
yeah, I was gonna
That
say,
goes
if
to
they
the
maintain.
company.
Okay, now I would agree with that because there's
Yeah, if they're
nothing-
maintaining.
Like a credit card would.
Yeah.
I don't know if they maintain
Yeah.
it exactly. There's 2 types of ways to install them. They could be bolted into the cement pad, or they do a rebar kind of thing where you can actually put them into the dirt for security. You can run them either solar or electrical, which is kind of nice. I'm sure the higher upgrades cost a little more, but base prices sounded like they were doable. They're 5 feet wide by 2 feet deep. That is the locker kind of facility with your PPEs and your paddles in them. And then the kayak rack is 3 foot, but 3 foot 4 inches. And there's no cash that can be exchanged. It's all
Could a kayak launch be put at the city marina for the boaters and the public?
Not without removing a dock. There isn't sufficient space between the docks to do that. I mean, you'd have to occupy a slip to do that, I would think. And then the docks are laid out to the federal core channel, so we can't go out into the river any further either. The place that even back when I was the city's engineer, I've always looked at 9th Street as the best place for that location for a kayak launch. I still believe that. And I think we've explained a little bit of that before, but probably after the first of the year, we're gonna start programming and planning out that property. And certainly it would be appropriate for the Parks Commission to have input and work on the layouts and what type of amenities would be appropriate at that location.
Tim brought up the one down by the boat ramp at First Street Beach. Is that an option?
It's not an option. My biggest concern there would be ice flow during the wintertime. It would be very difficult to protect it. And that would be the biggest issue. There's other issues with access and distance from the actual boat launch. But the biggest concern I would have would be ice moving down that river in the wintertime. I think it would cause a lot of damage to it.
It would just be nice to have one located in town.
It'd be nice to have 2,
Yeah.
just like you're saying, so you've got one in the lake and one close to Lake Michigan. There may be a little more passive way of doing it. You know, if you think of like the Little River, when people go from the weir, you know, that's a pretty passive entry there, where they get out below the bridge or before you go underneath the final tube. That's just a sandy beach, which is like a passive. So it's not handicap accessible, but just this afternoon when I was down at First Street, there was quite a few groups unloading pulling their kayaks out of the river at the boat launch itself.
Okay, do you want to stay on that committee then and
I would love to,
further into
yes.
that? That's kind of neat. And analyze the location and do you want to be on the 9th Street boat launch thing? I mean, I don't know that this has to be at 9th Street, but I think that one committee's enough that you do kind of looking at, or do,
Yeah.
yeah,
Fine with
okay, perfect, thank you, good.
Like
That
that.
needs to be developed there.
The next item is the Fifth Avenue tennis
I'm never
courts.
gonna read that.
And that was kind of Tim and Bob mainly,
Not even 9th Street,
They are pretty ripped up.
kayak launching.
yeah. But we do have the net up now.
Yes, and that's where,
That
yeah.
was where there's a little controversy.
Does anyone play on them, do you?
I haven't seen anybody play on them, but that doesn't mean I'm there at the right time.
Well, let's stick,
It
Well,
looks a little,
didn't Bob say they were dangerous?
I would say dangerous is what that would be what I would say.
and there's sand on them, so we're not maintaining them basically. I mean, it's hard to maintain them. I mean,
Yeah,
that's why we're not maintaining them. So,
What's your take on that, Jeff?
What's that?
that's tennis courts at Fifth Avenue Beach.
Avenue Beach.
I've been pretty consistent for a while on that. It's not the location and it's not the environment for tennis. The blowing sand it can be a daily issue. People do play tennis down there on occasion, but it's not the right environment for it. I really like the concept that the Parks Commission has talked about with keeping the slab, removing the fences, and erecting some type of temporary, seasonal, permanent shelter over the top of that where larger events could be held. And then maybe extending out the parking, or at least the walkways, to get access to that.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a neat venue. And it could be another place that could be subject to rentals, just like the Lions is.
I agree, and weddings and
Like that,
reunions,
yeah.
we don't have too many covered places. It's all good if the weather's good, but
And you need the size.
you need the size.
You need the
could put a
size.
dance floor, it could be
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
it could be nice. Okay, well,
The
that's,
problem is it's a sentimental thing.
It is.
That's,
that's the,
And
people are emotionally attached. to
And
tennis
Bob's
courts.
not wrong about that. And that's why I said we would be in much better standing if we went through our beach master plans and we got full community input, and however that turned out. But if it turned out that the recommendation in the master plan is to remove those as tennis courts and repurpose them, you've got a much better leg to stand on, and council and staff has that to back us in making that move.
yeah. Okay, well, I think they were gonna talk to the neighbors. I think, just leave this on here, let them do that. It's, I think, work on that a little bit, and I think this support will come around.
And those of you who've lived in Manistee for a while, when we try to take down something old, people get really upset. We built the new Rocket Park at First Street Beach with the promise of removing the old one, and when we went to take it down,
Oh, yeah.
the community went in an uproar.
Really.
So it's still there.
Flexibility and fluidity. You're right.
It's tough. It's, yeah.
It's hard to let go of that old stuff, yeah.
Sentimental value.
Okay, under old business, and Kelly, maybe you want to lead this a little bit.
Well, we kind of talked about it already in the beginning, that, I mean, you know, there are several things that we want to do, several different projects. But I think that personally, we need to focus on one thing at a time and do it from beginning to end. And I think if we put that plan in writing and start to execute, I think we would get much further with.
And if we were all on the same, if we were all working on the same plan rather than in the same priority. So I think we're moving in the right direction on that.
Well,
And you can do little things, you know, along the way.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not saying just only focus on, say, First Street Beach and forget everything else. You can do smaller things, but the big item, we have to be in agreement on.
right, and that's how I agree with you guys 100% on that. We try to, as we see them, you know, as we see things, as you guys point out things, we try to get to those. We put them on our list. Then as council directs us to do stuff, or the city manager, then that goes to the top of the list, and some of that it just has to wait for time. But we also, with the capital improvements, try to move them around, so you're not just showing favoritism to one park or the other. And it's amazing. Every time we do something positive at First Street Beach or Fifth Avenue, the public accuses us of catering to the tourists. So we just need to be mindful that we need to treat all the parks equally.
But the beaches are for us as well.
Oh, I agree 100%.
It's not just for the tourists.
And they are
But,
used.
but I updated you guys last month that we're gonna repave that whole loop at First Street. It's gonna be amazing, and it will make that park look tremendous. I'm so excited about that project. But what people will say is, oh, well, you did it for the hotel people. And that's just not the case. We're doing it for the citizens,
When is that starting?
We just signed the engineering agreements yesterday, so design will start probably late fall, over the winter, and we hope that construction
This fall?
design.
Yeah.
So we're planning construction to be done in the spring, and hope to be completed by Memorial Day.
Wow. Great.
Good, thank you, good.
And I think we're gonna get a tremendous amount of extra parking out of this, just by utilizing the existing asphalt that we have and redimensioning and restriping and all the measurements I've taken on it. I think we're gonna have a lot more capacity down there without expanding the footprint greatly.
I don't know what the proper terms are for asphalt and everything, but what you're doing on Memorial Drive, is that exactly what's going to be done around that loop?
It is not.
Oh, it's not.
So Memorial Drive, so I'll give you the quick lesson on road construction. You have to have at least 12 inches of sand subbase, and that's mostly for drainage and cushion. Then in Michigan, we design with 8 inches of aggregate base, that's gravel, or what's being used more and more often is crushed limestone. And then you put your pavement on top of that. So in the case of Memorial Drive, we had lots of pavement. We had no good gravel base below it and tons of sand. So every time, when in fact MDOT repaved that probably 10, 12 years ago, but because the base was so weak and substandard, that the pavement started to crack immediately. So what we're doing is full reconstruction on that.
Is that because of our change in climate, or that's just,
It's just the way that it was originally built.
Yeah.
If you look at the city streets in Manistee, which I paid attention to and have spent more of my life than you care to know about, but when the streets were built in Manistee, it was whatever material was available. So if they removed a section of railroad tracks, the city took the railroad ballast stone and laid it underneath the street. And that was great, If they had cinders that came out of one of the factories, that was laid down on the streets. And then there was very little natural gravel back then, but the natural gravel wasn't crushed, so it had rounded stone and didn't pack real well. But there's just a hodgepodge, and it changes block to block. So when we're reconstructing, or when we're looking at upgrading a street, we actually drill through the pavement and the base, and we look at what the structure of the pavement is, and then we determine whether or not, if we just put new asphalt on, it's gonna hold up. And if it doesn't, then we know we've got to reconstruct and put new base in. But I will tell you that when we're rebuilding things like Memorial Drive, you will never see another gravel base on that ever again. People in the future will simply have to probably grind off the asphalt and put new stuff down. And that's what we're doing at First Street Beach.
Just grinding the asphalt and putting it down?
Yep.
Okay.
and what's the lifetime of that then?
Well, any new pavement starts to crack after about 12 to 14 years. So that's when you need to start doing the intermediate treatments on it. But really the lifetime of pavement in Michigan is 15 years.
It's gonna be nice.
That'd be nice, that'd be a positive.
Yeah, and I bet, there's a couple patches that I put in down there, but that pavement's gotta be 40, 50 years old.
And
I don't remember in my lifetime it being paved.
Will there be curbing and a bike route also?
There's a bike lane right now that's striped, so that'll be enhanced. The only curbing that we're planning to put in is adjacent to the lower parking lot, right at the end of First Street, where we're having problems with water eroding down into that. So the only curbing is gonna be a little in that stretch to control stormwater. And then we're gonna add some sidewalk from that intersection so it better connects to where the beach pavilion is. There's just simply not enough money to pay for curbing.
I was gonna suggest, because Kelly did a great job on analyzing the needs at each beach. Maybe Kelly and I could meet with, and Bill, you wouldn't have to, you're probably meeting now, but meet with Jeff at least once a month, and just so we know what your priorities are and if we're on the same page, so.
Sure.
let's
Yeah,
start doing that.
I looked at Kelly's list again this afternoon, and actually a lot of that has been
Exactly.
accomplished through the volunteer efforts and through the public works guys, so.
Let's agree to meet. Okay,
And
perfect.
I like it as a goal, like, okay, there's something we can strive to, let's try to get there, and I promise you, we never will, but we will always
And it's
work
actually
to try.
Things are coming, so.
Yep.
And those Adirondack chairs are used every single minute of the day, it seems like.
I know it.
In the morning to go down there to use them. And, I thought, oh, we'll go down in the evening. Well, that never worked out because they're always full. I had to get up and say, we'll get up at 7 because I want to sit in them before we have this meeting. They are so used. And then we got up and went for a little walk, and this woman came back and she said, I was going to take your picture. Those chairs are so nice. And then she said, I can move though, because we came back. She was, I go, no, you sit there. And she was from out of town. And she was from Ann Arbor, loved it. She was up here working at the hospital for something, and she was like, "This, I just love this." I was praying over there on that
Well,
bench.
this is Kelly, and you said it was somebody in you that came up with that. But as soon as I heard, I thought, "Oh my God, this would be amazing." So today, Kelly typed up a little blurb on it, or Katie did, sent it to Kelly. Kelly's got it on our Facebook page, so it kind of announces that those are available for Memorial. The first two that I purchased were out of last year's budget, so that came out of the operating funds, and so we built a little cushion. The next four we got, because when we had two out there, I never saw them empty, ever. So we special ordered, got the 4 additional ones, and we've got those held, the expense held in escrow, so that when the memorial money comes in and we put the plaques on them, it'll kind of reimburse that. But I kind of want to create a little revolving fund, and Kelly suggested that we kind of do a mix of white and red.
What do you think about that now?
Maybe just stick with the red. The red looks great, and then then they won't have to
Okay.
get mixed up. It's great.
It's a great pop for the lake
nice.
shore.
It is.
Yeah, that's
It
fine.
is. You really
Could
see
we
that.
place them though, like in the spring, could we have a placement for them?
Yes.
Okay.
What do you mean a placement?
Well, like-
put them in a different location?
Well, I like the benches that are along the river.
Yeah.
And just continue on with the Adirondack
Yes.
chairs with 2 and then 4 and then 2 and then 4 and keep it going around the point.
I have no problem with that, and would appreciate if you would work with us and say, here's the best layout for it, and let my guys just do them. Also, we got a donation from Authentic 321 for a Connex box, those storage containers. We're gonna put that in cold storage, so we're gonna pull those chairs in during the wintertime and dry store them, cold store them,
Good.
so that they're not
Okay.
subject to the weather, so.
Thank you. How long? What's the warranty on those? What did they say?
The chairs?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They seem pretty
Yeah,
heavy.
they seem pretty.
We had a report of one break, but somebody must have fixed it, because when we went out there, we could not
I
find where it
know.
was broke.
I went out there again and looked, and I couldn't, somebody fixed it.
Yeah.
It was broke. It was broke.
And Comfort Center offered to fix it in also as well, so
Okay.
they've been good to support.
Yep.
Next item is the Tetherballs, and I guess we have the balls, but is there any update on the posts? And where they're going at each beach, correct?
That's what I understood. I didn't get an update from Mickey.
Where they are even.
I thought he had Tanner manufacture, our fabricator manufacture the poles.
Okay.
So I thought he was gonna be here, otherwise I would've got an update.
And why has it taken 4 years?
Got a tetherball itch real bad.
Yeah. Well, when it started, I don't know the full story, but I'll tell you what I do know. when he started the process, they were on back order. Then there was a government, or what would they call that? The governor's declaration, and we actually had to take down the tennis or the volleyball nets and stuff for quite a long time. So I know he wasn't active on that, and I don't know, it doesn't seem like it was a big priority for him to get them in.
So it was just priority then.
And then I think he reported last month that when he went to install them recently, that the poles were the wrong poles, and so I thought Tanner was gonna manufacture some or modify some in-house.
Tom Swedenborg would be pleased, or looking to get those installed. Okay, the Morton Park equipment, Jeff, any update on that?
I really haven't spent a lot of time on that this past month. But where we're basically at is, there's gonna be not a lot of pop for what we can afford to do. And I know you guys discussed this last month. What is proposed is a new swing set and a new standalone slide, which if you drive by there is almost a direct replacement of what's there today. So it's not anything new, it's newer and better looking, but there's a lot of expense in once you install those, you have to put a border and then you have to put the engineered wood fiber in them to contain it. Today, back in the day, we put up a swing set and people just fell on the dirt. Well, today you've got to meet the standards, so I think we made some progress on picking out benches and tables. And so what's basically going to happen is I need to sit back down with Sinclair. I need to get their my deal prices, because what I've got now are list prices. And then we're going to have to sit down as a commission and then pick out things that we won't be able to do.
When we talked about it initially, we talked about fields and trees and that sort of thing, not equipment, that we were going to build upon that, but start with something that they don't have over there, which is fields.
Which I think Aaron wanted too. I think
Right.
Aaron Pontiac was
Right.
on board on more recreation things,
Because
like
Hasman has the playground
Yeah.
equipment.
and it's hard to keep that equipment down there. I mean,
Well,
that,
if you go back, and because I made the list,
yes.
and I made the
Correct.
list from the minutes, but the Parks Commission created kind of our wish list, or your wish list of what you wanted to include in that park. Striping the fields costs very little. It's just paint. And it doesn't really,
More bang for a buck if we go without the playground equipment and get them more things to right,
Just to do.
right. For the equipment.
We should move forward, and maybe I don't know that we actually set up a committee, a subcommittee. We probably should have a committee from this group, and we probably should maybe involve Erin. I know she's big on this. And then just pick out the equipment, because like you said, you're not gonna get much. I mean, we just pick out 2 pieces. And did we get that old slide out of there, or is that still there?
It's
That
still
one was
there.
kinda
So we can't
destroyed.
refab any of that? We can't.
well, the slide is dented, so I don't think that can be refabbed. The swing sets probably could.
Yeah.
They could probably be repainted and even new chains and swings hung on them.
Yeah,
We can look at that.
Yeah.
We could see about doing that, just refabbing that swing set, ordering some new swings if that's what needed, yeah.
Baby in front,
and we wanted to survey the neighborhood to see what they actually wanted.
that would be ideal.
So this project in the past 6 years has ebbed and flowed and ebbed and flowed, and we're ebbing again. As you're aware, I've got approval to carry it into the current budget year, but we are gonna have to make decisions by the end of the calendar year to get stuff ordered and get this built in the spring.
Inviting the neighborhood to a meeting and seeing what they want.
It never happened.
But why don't we do it? Let's do it. Let's get it in the paper, let's get it on social media, let's get them here to ask them what they want. And then,
So what I would suggest then is you hold a work session, schedule a work session, and then you can post that the topic of the work session is Morton Park, and invite people from the neighborhood or anybody that wants to give input.
done.
Get Erin to go around, and she can ask the people and invite them. I think she would, and just get some input, and they can make a master list. I mean, we can't afford probably you know, we'll tell them. I mean, they're not gonna get everything they want, but just see what direction they're against, so, okay.
I think we
But-
do what they
We'll do
want.
that, then
And,
let's have
and we
a,
have to be careful because while we have 35,000,
Right, it's
it
not
doesn't
gonna
go
go
very
far.
far on playground
No.
equipment.
Do you have a list of items that were requested and the
Yes.
prices next to it? Is that
Yes.
something that we could have at the meeting so that people understand?
Yeah, I've provided that in the past, but
Thank you.
I could have
Please,
Katie send it out
Thank
to you
I would
guys.
appreciate that because I don't have.
When you talk about the
it.
field,
Yes.
are you talking about a soccer field, or what kind of field are you thinking?
Yeah.
With the
what it-
striping?
There were a couple of fields together. It was soccer. What else was it? What were we talking about?
What we talked,
It was within.
I think what we talked about was stripe, like doing a short field and striping it so that when the kids went and, the neighborhood kids wanted to play a football game, they had stripes. If they wanted to play
Soccer.
a little soccer, they had at least some out of bounds.
So you get some
So-
goalposts there, and or just soccer goals?
We didn't even talk about that. It was just more striping and,
Yeah.
yeah, letting the kids use it, a grid system for whatever they wanted.
Right.
because even just a couple kids might just go up there and hopefully use it, you know, so.
Sometimes the striping or the, can assist with choosing the type of activity that could take place there too. So I'm, you know, that would be,
I mean, they could-
and I've seen them where they cut the sod kind of in a park, where I don't know how they keep it dead in those areas. But I mean, it's kind of cool because then you don't have to keep marking it.
Okay.
And it's fairly simple, but at least it gives you some boundaries to work with.
Right.
So you have a date when you'd want to do the public meeting or the work session?
We'd have to find a place to meet first, correct?
Let's just meet right here.
And please don't forget,
Just say that,
Meet-
okay.
Or what'd you say, Jeff?
please don't forget that my boss is pushing me to get this project done.
I know.
Well, I think, yeah, giving good 2 weeks' notice where it's out on the website, I think, yeah, I think last time we tried to push it really quickly, and I think, and then he can have, you know, Jeff can have, you know, here's some costs, here's the budget, here's some options, and just get some comment.
Yeah.
And then, next meeting, you guys approve it, and then get
Yeah,
it in
and
place.
get it done. Let's get it approved.
Why don't you set a date?
Let's do it right.
Okay, let's do it right now. Jeff, and you should be kind of guided by you. When can you get this done?
Phones.
Well, in 2 weeks,
After Labor Day. I think.
After Labor Day, I would
Yeah.
suggest, eh?
that's what it feels like to me,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, I think like September 21st or something like that.
okay, now you're talking. Personally,
Yes.
I'm trying to finish up all these construction projects in town. And so,
Yes.
like mid-September, most of this should be past us. But I am gonna request the last week of September off too, so maybe like the third week of September.
22nd?
Well, that's our normal meeting, isn't
I'm not gonna.
Is it?
No, the 15th's our meeting. Yeah.
The
So
15th,
Yeah,
We could do
I'll be
it the
squirreled.
next week, like the 21st. or-
but don't we want to vote on it?
So it's gonna be after
at our
the
next-
Yeah,
after the
you're
meeting
right. You
then.
do want to vote on it at the meeting.
How about
don't
September
you?
8th?
Is that rushed?
Yeah, you'd almost have to go before the meeting.
No, I think he wants to move pretty quick.
What about the 13th?
I will do what you need to.
Awesome, thank you.
Because
Is it
to
too
get
early?
it done, you have to be.
So the meeting's the 13th.
The 8th?
Let's do the 8th.
September 8th, okay.
Well, you got council that night.
You have
13th.
what, council on the 8th?
No, they have it on Tuesday. That would be Thursday.
What time do you want to have it?
5:30?
Sorry, which dates?
September 8th, 5:30, is that a good time?
You think that's a good time for people to attend, though? After they get kids home from school and?
Oh, that's right, the kids are in school.
Supper?
7
Is
would
city
probably be
council
better.
7?
City council's at 7.
Could you have it at your 15th meeting?
Is there another area up here that we could meet at?
You could do a public hearing at your 15th meeting too, if you wanted.
And then vote on it then?
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't back them up because these meetings last pretty long as it is.
Okay, s-
I think it would be okay to dedicate it, and I think 5:36 gives enough time for people to get out of work, come
6
and,
o'clock on September 8th, we'll do it here. I'll call Erin and see if she can get,
people to come.
if she can get people to come, you know, and put her in charge of that a little bit. And we could put a sign up at Casman, you know, just a notice, because
And
people
could we,
play there, like even in, I meant out in the park there.
and could we put it on the City of Manistee social media?
Well, we'll post it as a public meeting, but yeah, we can get it out on the Facebook page, and
The News Advocate?
we could even reach out to the News Advocate.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And if they do, then they're gonna want somebody from the Parks Commission just to give a quote or talk about why this is important.
Okay, perfect.
Would that be you, Liz, if I
That'd be
can rope you, or link you in on that?
And we'll present it to them, but then also get their input. I guess show them what we were thinking on the equipment, right? And then just ask about what type of fields what they would use, what they could use.
Yeah.
Okay, and then ideally, we would go forward and decide at the next meeting and vote on it and order it.
Next week.
The next week, we would order it and go forward and have Morton Park off our list.
Assuming we have assuming we can agree on the
Yes,
cost of stuff, so.
cost of stuff. And
I think
yeah.
that time frame works to get everything ordered and get it installed then.
Some guidance, like, you know, this is like you might have to be doing this in stages or whatever, that this is, you know, this is the initial and even, like we talked about trees and stuff, so it's a good start. We'll go forward. Okay, next thing on the list was the basketball hoops at the beach.
So we've internally, we're talking about what could we do on a temporary basis to get them back up and usable, and then we need to look at long-term plan of replacing them and getting funding to do that.
I thought we had them. I thought we had the backboards.
But they're not, what are you saying? Because I think, don't we have?
I like the concept of
I
the
do
long-term
too.
solution being the prison-proof ones.
Well, and they were see-through at the beach. They would be absolutely gorgeous, what they
Yeah.
had in Glen Arbor. They were,
Oh, what did Brandon talk to us about today?
well, Brandon just said that they had the backs, right? They weren't the see-through ones.
Looking at using the fan ones now, but they had to be fabricated for the new hoops,
The
from what I
brand, yeah.
understand, correct?
Yes.
So the
Brandon-
hoops are not fitting with the configuration as it sits.
We-
So there has to be something.
And we're looking for how to strengthen them, because if we could put up a new backboard in a hoop,
Right.
and it won't last a weekend.
No, right, no.
So this
The other ones are like 6,000,
Yeah.
and in Brandon's is something that sometimes the players don't like the double rims, but they are used elsewhere in a park. I mean, yeah. and-
Don't use them.
Yeah, right? You know, it's got a double rim, I'm sorry.
But,
Yeah,
you know,
single-
That's part of playing
Jam on
outside.
it.
Yeah.
Goes back, yeah.
but like we also talked about, maybe we put those two on the ends, and then we put the other ones, you know, on the shorter court.
That might be a good opportunity.
Full
for like
court,
5,000.
half court, yeah, I think that would be awesome.
They're like 5,000 each. That might be a good opportunity for a Minger grant, that mini
Sure.
Minger. So that might be a good,
And that's a different grant than the big ones we're talking about, because
Right.
they've got those $5,000
and the
mini grants.
5,000 can be, it's at any time. It doesn't have to be at a certain
Right,
point.
right.
So
And we also need to get those courts pressure washed and repainted. Yes. You
the
planned-
benches are a little low.
What's that?
You were going to repaint them anyway.
We're gonna restripe them, yeah.
Sorry.
What about the benches there? The benches seem so low.
Oh,
And fill it with sand.
they need to be replaced
Yes, they do.
completely
Composite.
with anything. Because seriously, we repair and repair and repair. They look terrible even when they're repaired.
Yeah.
They're 50 years past their prime.
Focus on that.
We had talked about this too, and maybe this would be the time, was if someone calls and said, hey, because you had mentioned that to me, someone said, well, I want a memorial, but that, if we had that list for memorials,
Yes.
we need 3 benches for the basketball court. Would did your dad play
Sure.
basketball by any chance, or your,
There you go, yeah.
would you be interested in having the bench at the beach?
Yeah, and I think once we make our final selection on the style of the benches, the tables, the trash cans, then there's a lot more opportunity for us to upgrade and continue to do those things.
Okay, and then the next item is right side design. I did speak with Brandon, because I was thinking when he came in here that it was gonna be done by Memorial Day, and of course, they've ran into fabrication issues, right, Jeff? And, you know, but I think it is moving forward. They're planning to have it in yet this fall, as far as he said, and he's pretty encouraging and enthusiastic about how it's going to look.
Yeah, the new director of the CVB told me Tuesday night that I think it's mid-September, they've set their dedication. So installation should be probably the end of this month.
And then, I guess they weren't printed yet, but they're doing some sort of map and stuff for the parks and a booklet, and I'll bring it to the next meeting. It sounded
Yeah.
nice. So anyway, that's on target. It'll be in yet this fall. Memorial chairs, I think we covered. The monthly rental of the Lions Pavilion. I know it goes into the general fund, but we would be interested in seeing what they're making on that. I mean, to use it for projection down the road, and, you know, what has been the income year to date. And
I didn't check this month. We were around 3,600 a month ago, so I would guess we're past the 4,000 mark, which is pretty good.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I've only got one complaint on this.
Really?
One complaint has got to me, so
What was the complaint?
Very nice.
I got called by Central Dispatch on a Saturday that it was rented out and there was no toilet paper in the Porta-John.
Oh,
oh, I get.
Oh,
Who watches those? Who is supposed to watch a Porta-John? You know, just because I'm on this, I get calls on the Porta-Johns at least once a week. That's
So-
the biggest complaint in the city, I think. And I don't think I said, I don't even know if the city's responsible.
Yeah, we have, C&W is our contractor, and so we pay a monthly fee for them to be for each one to be placed and then serviced. And then what I've talked to Mickey about this summer is that we need to pay attention and communicate to C&W when peak usage is happening. So the prime example is Mack Park. Mack Park doesn't need to be serviced more than once a week all summer long until T-ball season.
right.
And then T-ball season, it needs probably 2 to 3 times a week. And if anybody's been up there for T-ball, right, there's a ton of people. So we're trying to pay more attention to that and get them on a variable schedule for when they're doing their maintenance.
So does the city put in the toilet paper for that? No, they're supposed to be.
They do.
Okay. So yeah, just. work
And
with
that,
them.
you know, and that doesn't stop somebody from
Oh, right.
unspooling a whole roll. I mean, it happens in our bathrooms all the time.
Next item on the agenda is the park tour and we had talked about it, and we're supposed to do this once a year, just take a little tour through the parks, our local parks. And we would invite the county commissioners to, the city council to join us and just have a little park tour. So want to set a date for that? And I don't know how you want us to do it. Can we just use our own vans and get?
What we've
you
done in the past is we schedule and rent the dial-a-ride bus,
Okay.
Oh.
and then
Fun.
it doesn't have to be, but in the past it was done during one of your regular meeting dates, and then we simply I provide a map to the dial-a-ride, and we take a route through all the beaches, all the parks, and then we just give updates and discuss things, and then if people want to stop and get out, but usually that takes about 90 minutes.
We want to stop and get out.
I think we need to get out, and I think, yeah.
Well, you
I'd
can
like
spend
to
a
see
lot
the
of time, so
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
A
we should
lot.
not do it at a regular meeting. I'd suggest maybe a separate, what do you all think? Separate,
I would say so.
yeah, I don't think.
I would say after the busy season, I would say sometime in October,
Well,
I guess.
if you get out, I mean, it does take 90 minutes with just like Jeff doing a narrative, driving through. I mean, so I don't think you could do it in one trip if we were gonna get out. Let's put it that
Well,
way.
maybe we don't do the whole thing.
Right.
We just do certain parks. and
Certain
we
parks
out.
get out, maybe a couple we don't have to.
I guess maybe this, I was gonna throw this out. Why don't we do it like it's been done in the past?
Saturdays?
And then if
No,
we
it's further
feel
down the
we
week.
need to go back and walk around, we can pick certain parks we need to do that at. Because there might be some we wanna go get a more in-depth look at. But there's gonna be some that, you know, like 9th Street boat launch. There's not a whole lot to see.
Well, you wouldn't have to get out at all of them, but.
Right.
I think you want to get out a little bit. I think until you get up close and look at, you just don't
Yeah.
really see it or appreciate it.
Right, I agree.
And people haven't, our group has gotten out, but not everybody on the council.
So if it doesn't all have to be done at once, could we
Right.
maybe take a park after each meeting and just, or does it have to be more formal than that? Can we just hop in a car and go look at one park after each?
There's no rules to
Every
this.
month?
And there's a bylaw that
I mean, there
says-
isn't, so you
What's
can,
worked well.
you can be flexible.
Yeah.
So,
It says you do a bylaw says you do a tour of the parks
Yes.
every year. That's all. It says.
But it doesn't say how, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't say how.
I think whatever part we're focusing on, like we talked about before, we need to get out.
Yes.
And we need to go with.
Focus-
yeah, you can't drive by Memorial Park and get any appreciation of the needs there unless you get out and
Exactly.
even spend 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
I
true.
agree.
I agree there too.
But you can also do that on your own.
Right.
And then we can discuss it as we go by. I mean, it's whatever you guys want to do.
I think it,
To have us go separately and then on the bus tour, we can make better comments as we're going through if we don't stop at everyone along the way.
Well, and I guess with Jeff's time and
right.
everybody, I mean, this is, in addition to their 40-hour-a-week job. Some Jeff and Katie have to be there.
Who wants to be, does anybody want to be in charge of this? And you could kind of call dial a ride, or
The DPW is taking care of it.
do you take care of that? Jeff?
We
Do you wanna
organize
take
it.
care of that? Okay. What date do we want to do this? Let's set it, October,
You wanna do it on a Thursday again?
Our regular meeting's the 20th.
Wanna do it the 13th?
want to do it the 13th? Do it the 13th? Lainey, does that not sound good?
Well, usually it takes the place of the regular meeting.
What happens there?
But then we don't get to talk about everything we wanna talk about then.
Why can't you talk about it the next meeting? I mean,
I could meet twice a month, so.
yeah, that's true.
I think in October, we should probably continue
It
to meet, maybe, I think you should.
The 13th, if you want to talk about it the next week, so it's fresh in your
Yeah.
mind, then
Let's do the 13th, and then if we said there's no,
At 5:30?
we can cancel the meeting if there's no, at 5:30?
What time does it get dark in October?
Easier to remember if they're all at the same time.
And that's before the tide change, so it should still be early or light at 5:30, right?
Is that amenable?
Does that work for you, Jeff?
Yeah, Jeff.
I think darkness would be a good deadline.
Parks close at dark, don't
Right.
they? Open at.
Everything looks better under, everything will look better at night, Jeff. We can do this at 9 o'clock.
Well, I think that there's a couple areas, I'm reading Kelly's mind. If you want to appreciate the type of work that needs to be done in the city marina park, you need to
Yes.
get out and walk it.
And what
I
has
did-
been done?
And I would encourage you to do that ahead of time, but it doesn't prevent you from stopping where you want to.
At some of those, I think we should stop.
Yeah.
Yes,
Have
okay.
they ever done tours with city council to other parks?
We've invited city council to these parks tours each year that I've been involved.
No, I'm talking about to Glen Arbor or to Grand Haven or to,
Spring Lake or
yeah.
something.
I'm not sure what you,
Have we ever done a park tour of any other parks outside of our,
not that I'm aware of.
can we do it?
I mean, we did that ourselves, but could we include city council
Could we get a bus for that?
journey?
Yeah, we could. It's, obviously, we could only have a certain amount of them there at each time, but,
Yeah.
so they don't have a quorum. But
It would be nice to do it in the fall before, unless you want to do it, well, fall of them we could plan. If you do it in the spring, summer is like, happens all so
crazy.
fast, yeah.
Yeah.
Fall, kind of get a priority list together.
Can we pick a park, set it up, and then invite city council and,
Yet this fall?
I would like to, if anybody else.
Yeah, I'd go along.
I'd go along.
Park for that and then pick a park, or should we, how do you want to plan that?
Let's, decide tonight or refer that to a committee and set it up and kind of,
Yeah,
let's do that committee.
for that.
I'll do that with you, Kelly. Kelly and I'll be on the committee and we'll just around. So
Talk about it later.
we'll take everybody's time tonight. We'll do that in the committee with the city council and see. Okay, the next thing on this is, kind of that man-made park area in that, someone had asked me about this and I couldn't answer it. The private lot that's for sale right there.
Oh,
And also that Porta-John, that's one that kind of is leaning, and that one needs attention. That was, someone did call me on that, because it's kind of dirty, it's very dirty on the inside, I don't think it's quite usable. So, and then about the lot. Is that a for sale lot, that's,
What is for sale exactly there?
yeah, what
you
is,
guys, you guys are so new, you haven't heard poor Jeff's story, he tells it over and over.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, here we go again, Jeff.
tell us again.
Please, Val.
That, where the roadway is and the parking, it was platted as King's Addition, and it was in between dunes. It's somehow the city acquired quite a few lots in that subdivision. And when the access and the parking and the roadway was built, the parking spaces, if you drive in there, you see how there's pockets of them that shoot off. Those were shot off on the public parcels.
Oh.
And the drive itself meanders through a public right-of-way. Then there was a community support to acquire all the land around the lake, and so there was a Natural Resource Trust Fund grant that was applied for and awarded to the city to acquire the properties from SAM Products, but then also the individual lot owners that were around that parking lot. There was one party that had no interest in selling and has kept that in the family and has willed it to, I believe, a nephew. So the current owner believes the value is almost 10 times what the city believes the value is. The first issue is it's an undersized lot and would be we believe it would be impossible to meet setbacks and the minimum building size. And also it would cost at least $150,000 to get water and sewer extended to serve that lot. So the city had offered to purchase it and just make it a part of the parkland, but the values are just way too far apart. I think there was like 30,000 versus 270,000.
I think that's there's an acquisition grant through the trust fund, and that's another one to consider. And then could do a kayak launch there possibly. So that's another list of, on the project list, but it's just.
Then the next questions that have come up is that lot boundary between the Hampton and the Rotary Park. Is that, you see the red stakes and then you see the area, is that the retention pond? And then you see, where's the actual lot? Where's that going to be the boundary there, I guess is the question.
The boundary was obviously surveyed and staked. It's probably hard to decipher amongst all the other activity.
You can see that, but then the fence is quite a bit further outside.
Right, so there's, if you turn left off of First Street, and so now you're on the west frontage of that property, and then there's a gap where it looks like a driveway would come out. That driveway is very close to the south boundary line. Beyond that is parkland, and there's fencing in the parkland surrounding where the pond is, the detention basin.
Okay, so kind of where the fencing is then is the boundary, is that what you're saying?
Not quite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you get just do a Google map of the city?
Jeff, did you say there are plans for that park? That's what I need. Rotary Park, where the retention pond sits, that park right there, the gazebo is there. Did you say there's plans for that?
There's nothing additional master plan.
Oh, I thought you said.
Nothing official.
Okay,
I would envision some additional sidewalks and pavilions.
yeah, that was our plan.
Probably better if I just point at it.
I'm lost without my program. Okay, let's see what I have. Oops.
That layers on the bottom corner.
Hmm,
You can do
down
an
here?
aerial. There you go, aerial.
Right there?
Scoot in, yep, perfect.
Oops. Oh, goodness.
So much bluer in real life.
You like the mouse, don't you?
Can you tell?
I wonder if does this one?
It doesn't, no, I think it's, all right, am I getting close?
That should be, is that good,
Pointing at our
Jeff?
computer.
I like this.
Oh, how do you do that?
Am I closer?
Perfect.
All right, is that better?
Turn on my what? Oh, hello?
Center it, so.
Over
He
here.
wants-
There you go.
There we go.
Here.
Right in front of you.
Yeah, you got the front row.
So obviously this shows the old Lakeshore Hotel, but the property line is very close to here. The pond that's dug is in here.
No.
So there's fence all along here, but then when you drive by, there's like a
Yes.
little spot with sand that kind of goes through the berm. There's a bunch of stakes and flagging. They put that right next to the hotel and as far up to the property line as they could, and even narrowed it to a one-way exit. So that'll just be a one-way exit, and then I think the property line's about 10 foot to the south of that. And right now it's fenced all the way around these trees
Oh, so-
where they dug this basin.
So we didn't lose any of that to the
You
Hampton?
can't give up anything.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That basin is that what the retention pond is?
It's a basin, but yes.
But when you say basin, so it'll kind of be just empty, right? It's most of the time?
Yes.
Okay.
There
like-
should never be standing water. for
Good, that's the
extended time.
questions is that gonna be a pond?
So, all our parks are charter protected, so we can't lease, we can't dispose of, we can't sell, we can't
Good,
do anything with these parks or obligate them without a vote of the people. It would take a general election. So, when we looked at options for them to discharge their stormwater, we have, there's a big spillway, this whole parking lot, or the majority of that parking lot comes to a spillway right here, and it disappears, and then there's a basin on this side, and it all comes out. It used to come out the bank and just roll out the street and wash out the parking lot. And a couple of years ago, we put in a manhole structure and stuck a piece of corrugated pipe out just to get it away from the pavement. So they had an option of tying into that. They also had an option of putting a pond underneath their parking lot. And you do that with big pipes and bury those pipes underneath the parking lot so that the water fills those pipes, and then they could discharge into the storm sewer system that comes out and discharges here. But when we built this road, we only built it for us. So there's really not a lot of capacity, and I wasn't really in favor of them discharging that way because I didn't want our streets to pond during rainstorms. So what we did was we said, if you dig a hole here in a space that's not used, you can put your water in there, but you have to build a pipeline from here to here to take our water problem and get rid of it. And then down by the tennis courts, it always ponds right there and destroys the pavement. And so they are paying to pipe that water back to that pond, and that pond is ours.
but it really won't be a pond, is what you're
It's
saying?
not a pond, it's.
Yeah, it's just, it should
So,
sand go all the way.
The other thing that's important to understand is
You're good.
when you dig these basins, you have to get them lower than the pipes that you're building. So that thing is, if it's 10 foot deep, there's only 2 foot at the bottom that has capacity to hold stormwater. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it'll never fill all the way up.
Right.
And it's all beach sand, so we made sure we went through the calculations with the engineers. And when we get the peak storm, it'll fill that 2 feet full and then absorb into the ground within an hour, so.
Percolates down.
Yeah.
What happens with those solids?
Like periodically, you have to take the sediment off to allow it to perk through the sand.
So where does that stuff go after it's taken off?
What I do with it, we go put it out of our compost pile.
Oh, okay.
We basically landfill it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. One more thing, Karen was gonna give we talked about it on the parks. One thing we wanna kinda add is, it's just like you just said, Jeff, someone's made a significant contribution to the city, a permanent perpetual park. And over time, and I mean, I was born here and I still can't always remember who all these people were. So we kind of agreed this month, Karen's gonna do Douglas First Street Beach.
Just for us, I was thinking that we could, and Mark Fetter down at the Historical Museum just did this in January about Douglas Park and published a great article in the paper. I printed it. Did you guys read it?
Yeah.
And it was the same article pretty much that he had printed back in 2012. So 10 years ago it was out there too. So what I was hoping to do is to have us form a committee who could work on writing, if not a history of the parks, at least kind of a tour of our parks to get people familiar with why parks are named for who they're named for, like Douglas or
I
Mack
think that
or-
content would be awesome for our webpage.
Right.
Yeah.
Or for a webpage, or
Yes.
as an op-ed in.
And what's offered in each
And even signage at that park or something.
Right, something
Yes.
just to get people understanding why they're called what they are. I didn't know why Douglas Park, and I lived
Well-
here all my life, so.
Douglas Park was on Mason Street.
I know, because I read the
Yeah.
It's really interesting, if you don't read it.
Yeah.
Where the
yeah,
American
I would
Legion is.
love to.
That was
work
all
on
the city
that.
park,
That's cool.
called Douglas Park.
Behind the ironworks.
I have a picture.
Not behind it,
And by the
behind
chamber.
where the chamber was.
By the chamber
It's
area.
an old photo.
Along the river.
Oh.
And that cannon that's in Memorial Park used to sit in that park, and the kids rolled it into the river.
Kids,
Or it could have been ladies. I assume it was kids. I don't know.
But anyway, I would love to work on that with somebody and try to do a series. Not without, he did a great job, and I wouldn't probably go into quite so much historical detail, but just so people understand
Absolutely.
what our parks have to offer and why they're called what they're called.
And more publicity for the parks and what.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's kind of a two-part thing, because the first idea was to do kind of a op-ed on who is the Parks Commission, what do we do, why are we here? And I hope to create either put out our emails for people as a way to liaise with the public,
Exactly.
that they can contact us with ideas or hopes, or I didn't really want to be a complaint line, but Ed Bradford suggested instead doing a single email, say parks@manisteemi.gov, that we could link to and advertise that in an op-ed as well, in the one that tells who we are and what we do. And if you would like to put forth ideas for the future of our parks, please feel free to contact us. But
I like it.
Good, yeah.
Yep.
15-part series.
Yeah, exactly.
pretty much, yes. So I don't
Well,
know how
I
often
tell you,
we do that.
to me, that's fascinating, because you think about the Sands family,
Exactly.
the Reeds family,
Shamaric.
there's Shamaric,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of history in those. I think that's really cool. And Mark just did one on Memorial Drive too,
Did he? I missed
this
that
year.
one.
Yeah.
And Minger, I mean, here it is, a big benefactor to our town, and, yeah, what's the history of Minger? Just who's benefited?
Can you have a sign at every park with like a QR code
There
where
where I
you,
was going. How
That's
about
kind of, I
QR
think, the
code
right side is
every
kind of
park?
working on that a little bit. That
Yeah,
right
right,
side is
yeah.
going in that direction
I
on
like
that
that.
thing, and I kind of mentioned this to him.
I would like to see them on the birds. Where a kid could take a picture of it, and so the amenity that they want to use at this point is over at Sands Park, because they got a skateboard, They take a photo of it, they find out where the skate park is in town, and I don't know if the scooters go that far, but it would be a real easy, I'm guessing easy, and I don't know how to do QR codes, you guys, but
It sounded like you were volunteering.
I know.
I look at the kids, they're always doing it. You know what I'm saying? Wow. But
It's an app on your iPhone.
I know that, but I mean, I just see the kids do it, and they're like, yeah, everything's going for them, right? It takes me an hour to get to the app, but, you know. I just thought that that would be easy to help guide with our amenities at our parks, because we got some awesome amenities, and if we could kind of help steer people towards those amenities, if that is what they're looking for, I think that would be.
We have that park inventory, so you're right, you can know where the.
Motion,
Yep.
just a committee at first.
To make a commitment.
Well, I don't think we have to have a motion to make the committee, do we? Can we just have a committee and?
I don't think it requires a
I don't think it
motion.
requires a motion.
No.
Okay, Karen has volunteered, and she's a
Yeah.
very good writer.
Bob or Tim might be interested in it too. I mean, I don't wanna, I bet Bob
I
might.
bet Bob would be good at that.
I was gonna say.
He
looking
seems
to
like
say
he would
all the
enjoy
time.
that.
Professor at
Yeah.
MSU, yeah.
Oh, he was?
Uh-huh.
Was he really?
On psychology, uh-huh, I think so.
I didn't know that.
I think so, he's got an interesting background, so we'll put him on that, and if he says no, we'll put someone else.
Oh, I think that's awesome.
Good, thank
I
you.
like the idea.
That's great.
It is a cool idea.
Last thing, we go around, if anybody else has anything they'd like to add, stuff.
Well, I would like to say that we are making such progress in the city marina, and I want to thank you, Jeff, and Brandon,
Yes.
and Mickey, and Larry. They've been wonderful. Larry repaired and replaced so many things in the park, and it's all fixed. It's great.
And it looks great.
It looks great, yep. And Brandon has been, and Mickey too, has been schlepping supplies back and forth, and I know. But we talked about it today. We will plan better I will plan better next time. But they've been great.
Yes, they
And
have.
the Seeds group has been out. They have been wonderful. They have done so much work for us. They're awesome. I thank Jennifer Flynn for thinking of us again. And then the Parks Commission today, the NRBC, and the Harbor Commission all came out and helped with a couple of Manistee proud volunteers. And we got a lot done. We raked, we weeded, we scrubbed, we painted, we pressure washed, and we edged. And tomorrow we're gonna do the sidewalks with the surface cleaner and the pressure washer. And the next week, hopefully, I get seeds again, and we're going to finish up with things that we couldn't get to this week. The week went by so fast, but we've had great weather, and the marina looks great.
Yes, it does.
It does.
Yep.
So I wanted to thank you for organizing that and all that hard work, and just reach out to me. I've told those guys, get them what they need, and it's tough sometimes getting all the supplies timely, but let me know if they're not getting it done for you.
They're awesome, and I thank you for that, Jeff. The one thing while I was there, I went into the restrooms up on the top, and I think that it's a very easy solution to make those restrooms look great. While we were there, we noticed who really uses those restrooms are tourists, as well as people that walk in the Riverwalk as kind of a pit stop. But all it would need is a really good cleaning with a fresh coat of paint. And then we thought of some things like maybe nautical lights that are very inexpensive, and nautical mirrors with perhaps even a nautical quote on the wall. But those bathrooms could be so much better than they are with very little work. And we'd like to ask your permission to maybe think about getting that done.
But maybe is there any chance, you guys have done a great job, is there any chance to even subcontract that deep cleaning out to someone else? The DPW and the parks have done an excellent job, but the plate is full. I don't know that we want to just throw more on their plate. And
Is there money to
Is there any money?
We
to
have
that
somebody
deep
in mind.
cleaning That if someone,
I would have to look, but
okay,
we've had this discussion. My operating budget in the parks is very small. Even the efforts that we've assisted, not just your volunteer group, but others in this past week and a half. I mean, we're approaching $2,000 just there, which actually is a big chunk out of operating budget, so
Two grand for what?
for all the expenditures that we've done just the past week and a half. Don't worry about it. I'm making sure I'm tracking it and we're doing fine. But as this stuff happens and people start to see results, I'm trying to request on an annual basis to keep nudging that up, so that we can continue to support those efforts.
Could we get a quote from a subcontractor to see what it would cost for a deep cleaning? And then go from there?
Well, I think darn near all of our restroom facilities are in need of a fresh coat of paint, and
Yes.
that goes a long way.
It does.
And sometimes you just can't clean them beyond what they are.
No.
So
Plain old.
tile, stuff like that you can, but the walls and stuff, they need to be freshened
Well,
up.
don't we use just good old fashioned, mop bucket and pail? And, right, that's how we're cleaning them. But I know there's heavier duty equipment, like Kivak cleaners that spray foam on the walls and you like power wash them down. Like, use them more like in gang bathrooms. And, they do a great job and they clean and they're quick because you just hose everything. I don't know if it's something that you could use here, gang bathrooms in schools. You could, you just hose it down and they're sparkling clean when you're done. And you close the door. It's just,
But
it's an awesome piece of equipment.
the countertop, it just needs a good scrubbing and it needs fresh caulk. And you scrub those faucets,
The baseboards.
it'll look great. It doesn't need a whole lot of money to fix that sort of stuff, but I think it would make a huge difference. And then the one other thing that I had, there's a garbage receptacle, a dumpster looking garbage can out on the front porch of the marina. Can we get rid of that? Does that have to be there? That's like putting a garbage can on your front porch. It's a $2 million building and we have a trash can on the front porch. Can we get rid of that?
We can upgrade it when we buy the new receptacles, but that's there for the rentals.
Just
that
for
are
the,
upstairs.
yeah, that's what it's used for.
But can't they take
Down
it
the
down
side or
to the
something?
receptacle? Why does it
They
have to
won't,
be
they'll just
right
set the
there?
bag out in front by the door, so you either get
But
the
if it's
trash.
if it's in the what do I want to say?
Agreement,
Yeah, if it's in the agreement,
rental agreement.
tell them they have to put it in the receptacle down at the bottom of the hill. Why?
It sounds great, but it's not reality.
Right.
Then they don't get their
Because we've
deposit
talked
back.
about this.
Could we move it up for when the rentals, when it's rented? Just move it up for the event, but does it have to be there all the time? It does look, when you're going by there, it's just the huge blue weekly trash thing.
We can think about that.
Just something to,
Something to think about.
yeah.
There's
just
just not,
isn't-
there's not a whole lot of area right there for
There's
the
no
trash.
space.
There's no space, and we're on a hill. So, I don't know. I don't even know where you'd put it.
It's the most visible thing you see from the street or
Right.
from anywhere, and it's not like your ice cream dish or something doesn't need to go in
Can you
there.
put it behind that fence that the air conditioning units are in? Would it fit there?
Or
I
can you
don't-
build an enclosure for it on
That's
the side
locked.
of the building? That
Oh.
it won't
That's
shut
locked
down
because
the street?
all the controls to the power for the entire facility are in that fence.
I guess I don't see if I rented it and I had to take the garbage down the hill, what's the big deal, I guess, is my thought.
Try it if you want.
And then we thought a nice black bench right in that area for their husband to wait for their wife to get out of the restroom, can sit there and wait, and then a nice trash receptacle on the corner away from the building for any trash that people have. That building is beautiful. We need to beautify it. There should be flowers on each side of the entrance door. Just a thought.
Karen?
Oh, just that.
Well, the bathrooms at First Street Beach were very nice and clean and tidy on Tuesday night when I was there for the
Concert?
yeah, and he was awesome. Paul Nelson, awesome. Yeah.
I don't have any here.
Well, thank you for attending, and
That's a good report.
Bill and Jeff and Katie, thank you for coming in. I think I think the town has looked, I think everybody's working for the same goal. I think the town has looked good this summer, and we've had a lot of traffic, a lot of tourists, and a lot of local people out, and it's had a lot more use than it has, I think, in the past. And I think we just gotta keep moving in the direction that we're moving, and together, I think we can make a difference.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We're done.
All righty, thank you.
Do you want it?
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Giving it back to me.
It does.
Thank you.
See you, Bill.
Bye, Bill.
I would,
Chiquita.
Stop the recording.
You'll do it.
It's getting late.
Okay, cool.